Hello YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about Dark Souls 3 because I'm excited for it. And you know, it it's just my number one most anticipated game of the year right now. Uh and I pre-ordered the collector's edition. Sadly, we didn't get the $500 version here in America. I know I could go online and order it from overseas, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. Because that seems, first of all, it's very expensive, and it just the I don't think that giant statue of like the giant Lord of Cinder is really gonna. I don't think I'll actually like that boss too much. I don't really like his facial design a ton. I mean, don't get me wrong, that statue is really cool and all, but but yeah, I'm probably gonna do an unboxing video of the collector's edition, and yeah, so look forward to that. Anyone who cares, I'm sure people will actually watch that video because I know I would, if I was planning on buying it like after the fact, if you could, but or if I didn't buy it and I just wanted to leech off someone else's happiness. So yeah, Dark Souls 3 though. I'm very excited, and I'm also kind of worried about a few things. Like, I hope that you can put things in your left hand instead of your right hand, like you could in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 and Demons. But if it does the thing like Bloodborne where you have left-handed weapons and right-handed weapons, then, I might be a little bit sad, because, you kind of want the freedom to go like, no, I want this. Or maybe I'd be fine if they made it to where like you could have a lefty switch. Not that I'm left-handed or anything, but it was cool in Dark Souls 2 especially, where you could have like a lefty weapon. Does that make sense? Or you could have a lefty weapon user if you wanted to. But yeah, the what are they called, weapon arts in this game, they look really cool. I actually had access to the what's it called, the stress test over here in America. I don't remember when it was, but I know it went for 3 days and we had 3 hours every day to play it. I think maybe it was 2. And it got me even more pumped for the game. And the boss was really cool. It was against the Frigid Dancer of the Frigid Valley, which there's plenty of footage now that you can go and look at online. She wasn't too hard for a Souls veteran, as I would call myself. But she was fun. She was very cool and interesting boss. I say she had a very feminine like movement to her. She had a very unique movement. If she could have been a Bloodborne boss, well, she couldn't have actually. She wouldn't have fit in the aesthetics of it. But she moved similar. You know what she reminds me of Murgo's wet nurse from Bloodborne, a little bit. Which is a fun fight, kind of. There's a few things about that boss fight that agitate me. But there was nothing really like that in this boss fight. And I've noticed another thing. Was it had multiple forms, which were very cool and interesting. About halfway through the fight, she pulls out another sword, and it's very cool. And she had this one attack where she like stabbed you through the stomach, and it was kind of like, it was a command grab. It's kind of like, the act of kindling bonfires, which is another thing we've only seen in trailers. We haven't heard anything else about that. I'm still unclear as to how that mechanic's gonna work, because we know that you have the ability to kindle bonfires and make them, like, or something like that, and that's very interesting. I don't know, I can't wait to see what that's all about, and I can't wait to see if we're gonna get to have the sword in the bonfire as a weapon, which I think I'd be down for. That'd be a cool like cosplay build to do that. I know that if it's not a completely useless weapon, then I'll probably make a build completely around it. As soon as I pick it up, I'll start changing my build. First of all, I'm going to go strength, endurance. I'm going to find his Y-hander, and I'm going to start ranking that up. And then once I find lightning, I think, once I find my first lightning spell, I'll start pumping some faith a little bit too. Because, you know, I like to have a little bit of you know, some range if I need it, or to cast a heal spell or two. Because, you know, that's never not useful. That's always the fact. But yeah, man, I'm just so excited for Dark Souls 3. I started talking about it earlier, the weapon arts. I think, I forget what the button is now. It's the parry button, R2, or L2 rather, not R2. R2 is still strong attack. But if you press L2 now, if you don't have a parry shield, then you will, you'll go into this mode, or not this mode. For some weapons it's a mode, and for other weapons it's like an attack. For example, the Marakumo, it's like this big slashy thing, male woman. But this is big slashy attack for some weapons. And for the dual scimitars, it's like a spin attack thing. And for the great sword, you do this thing where you kind of like, you step in, and then I think you have to press it again after that. You kind of, you have like hyper armor in that step in, and also I'm sure you can dodge some attacks, and then you get this amazing, like, it feels super cool to do. You slash up, and it like decimates whatever's in front of you. But I still like the generic longsword. That has a really cool weapon art too, where you hold it down and then you kind of like hold it. You hold your sword in like a kata, kind of, to where you're holding it like that, you know. And then, well, I mean, with the, you know what I'm trying to say. You can see it. Look it up if you really care. But and then you press L1 or not L1. You press R1 or R2 and you get new attacks out of it. And it adds a new depth to PvP. And I know that because that's the main purpose of the stress test, was to show off PvP, which, by the way, 0 lag the whole time. That's amazing to me. Like, and I know that it might have been on one server, and that's why it was so good. But if PvP is like that when Dark Souls 3 comes out, it'll easily be the best PvP we ever had in a Souls game. Because Bloodborne's PvP was fun, but it had a lot of things wrong with it. Some weapons are broken, like the Chikage. You can get 2 hits on a guy and you win. Like, that's just how it works, and it's really not fair. And that's coming from a Chikage user. It's not like I'm butthurt that I get spanked by the Chikage. I use the Chikage, and I know it's not fair. Or I have used the Chikage. You know, it's just things like that. Like, PvP in Bloodborne's not very balanced, but I don't think it's ever was like the main draw of that game. I think a lot of people think Dark Souls 2 had the best PvP because it didn't have teleport backstabs like Dark Souls 1's did, which is, you know, an obvious, you know, plus. But the problem with that is the punch backstabs that they had in Dark Souls 2. Like, when you had to do this little hook thing, and then if you landed that, then you got the backstab animation, which the backstab animations were wicked cool in Dark Souls 2, don't get me wrong. But the problem with those was that it was impossible to backstab enemies in PvE. Or it was not impossible, but it definitely didn't feel nearly as good as it did in Dark Souls 2. Or Dark Souls 1, rather. And they fixed it. They fixed both problems in Dark Souls 3, which is, if you, with a backstab, you do like part of the animation still, but you're just kind of standing there and you're totally open. And similar to how it did in Dark Souls 2. So it definitely, like, it punishes you for backstab fishing. And people that, you know, just throw out R1s are more likely to hit the guys that are fishing for backstabs, because it doesn't like auto lock to PvP characters like that anymore. And that's super good. And the weapon art for the longsword is so cool in PvP, because you'll have two dudes with like long swords. That's another thing too. Generic longsword, well, I really hope that like the inevitable like silver longsword that they're gonna have in the game, like, you know, the penetrator sword or the silver knight longsword or the equivalent of those, I hope it has the same weapon art or a cooler one. I hope it doesn't have some weird area of effect bullshit, because that weapon art is easily my favorite that I've seen so far. And I might rock the generic longsword / short sword. I think that's technically the short sword that you had in the preview build for the warrior class. That's what I heard that somewhere, but it's so cool, man. It feels so cool. And when you hit somebody with it, it's like the most gratifying thing ever. It's just like, you feel like a badass, you know? And man, I'm just so excited for Dark Souls 3. The story, I don't know what it's about yet, but if you watch Vadi Vidya's newest video, he made a very good point, which I heard some bad shit about Vadi, but, you know, he still has inside information that a lot of people don't get, because he's like the biggest Souls guy, and he still says a lot of shit that, you know, is good to know. So I'm still subscribed to him, you know. It's not like the Fine Bros. At least he's not copyright striking people, but at least I don't think. Anyway, though, he mentioned, like, it's kind of like you're on a pendulum, and the past 2 games we've had, you're on like this side of the pendulum, but on this one you're on in this game you're on this side. And that makes a lot of sense to me, because a lot of the thing we talk about is how cycles work in the Souls series. And you know, you're at the end of a cycle at the end of Dark Souls 1, and then in Dark Souls 2 it's like a couple of cycles down the line, right? And you're at the butt of another cycle. But you know, that means that they're like, and it's like, it's as if the world starts, you know, it hits a peak, and then the world ends, and that's where you're at in Dark Souls 1, is at the end of the world. And then the same thing happens. The world has started and ended a few more times, and then it's at the end of another cycle in Dark Souls 2. But it seems like this game might be the beginning of a cycle or something, where all the like Lords of Cinder are getting up to like try to war for the first flame or something, is kind of what he made it sound like, or as I interpreted it. Which, like, that's super cool to me to think about, like, you know, like, or because, like, maybe this is supposed to be the last cycle, and that's why they're all waking up and you gotta fight each other, and that's why it's such a big climactic event. But, like, that's so cool. And instead of an undead, you're the unkindled, apparently, which is strange to hear, that you're not really an undead in this game. Unless maybe when they actually localize it, we will be just undead. But, man, there's so much I'm excited. I can't wait just to... Also, Firelink Shrine was confirmed to be in the game. I don't know if it's the same Firelink Shrine, but if it is, I hope that the kiln of the first flame is somewhere else if we go there too. Because I don't want the same reveal twice. I don't want Firelink Shrine to be above the kiln of the first flame, because that was cool once, and if they do it again, it will be kind of lame. The Throne of Want being underneath the Castle Vindrick was cool, but, you know, I hope they just have the kiln somewhere else, or they do something cool with it, you know. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had. I'm running out of time here, so if you see this video, you know, like it if you care. Post in the comments what you're excited about in Dark Souls 3, and you know, if you like having somebody in the background while you're working or whatever, then go ahead and subscribe, because I try to do videos a day, because I go on a walk a day, and it's good to take my mind off the fact that I'm doing exercise. So I'll see y'all tomorrow probably. Bye.